888-472-7736 to learn more or visit trimfireradio.com.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty missions, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Four Sisters Farmers Market is more than a place to shop for delicious organic food. It's a celebration of Indigenous culture, food sovereignty, and community. Now in its 11th season, the market offers healthy, affordable, culturally appropriate local foods every Thursday from 11 to 3. Located on the American Indian Cultural Corridor off Franklin Avenue, Four Sisters Farmers Market is a project of NAGD. Every Thursday now through October, discover more about Four Sisters Farmers Market by visiting nacd.org. Hey, this is Robert Pilot. The Minnesota State Fair is more than food on a stick. It's a chance to celebrate Native culture and voices. On August 25th, hear the Red Lake Singers and Emizaska Drum Group during Mental Health Awareness at Dan Patch Park. On August 27th, meet Native authors like Roxanne B2B Nokwe Gold and Stacy Lola Druyard, and visit the Common Table and learn how Indigenous foodways are shaping Minnesota's future. Get your State Fair tickets now at mnstatefair.org.
On view at Minneapolis Institute of Art, artist Mary Sully was a visionary ahead of her time. Born on Standing Rock Reservation, she worked in near obscurity between the 1920s and 1940s, creating intricate, vividly colored drawings that blend Dakota heritage with modern life. Now on display at the Minneapolis Institute of Art, experience the first solo exhibition featuring Mary Sully's work only at MIA until September 21st, and always free to visit. Learn more at artsmia.org.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies tonight with a low around 60, Thursday sunny with a high near 76, and Friday sunny with a high around 75.
State Fair savings are here at Chanhassen Dinner Theaters. Save $25 on tickets to select performances of Grease, White Christmas, and Guys and Dolls. Tickets and details at chanhassendt.com/fair25.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be Indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake. Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we discuss local, national, Native news and events, and as you know, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues. Hey, today we got Dr. Stately coming in a little bit here. Also, our friend from Emerge Wisconsin, CEO Arvina Martin. And we're going to be talking about what's happening and what happened today here in Minneapolis and the ramifications and things like that. Of course, our thoughts are definitely with what's happened here in Minneapolis, and it's just a mixed bag here for us here at Native Roots Radio. It's so sad to see this happen again and again and again. And, somebody that has maybe some mental illness happening, end up with guns and, of course, killing people, innocent people, and then killing themselves. So we're really sad here. It's been a really gray day here at Native Roots Radio. Prayers up. I just am totally disgusted. We talk about. I liked what Fry had to say today when he said that. Our thoughts and prayers. Well, these kids and parents and workers and teachers were praying. So that kind of shoots that. We need to be vigilant. We need to have our politicians do something about this, and we also need us to work with our youth and the young people out there today that seem so hurt and just hurt. What can we do? It's just really, really sad, and I don't know. It's just been a gray cloud today here at the pilot home. We have our grandchildren today, and Wendy's been watching them, and it's just been an emotional day. When are these going to stop? When are people going to stop killing other people senselessly? It's a mass shooting again, and Minneapolis had some problems the day before of people getting killed too, and it's really, I look at my grandchildren and I say, is this what they have in their future? Not being safe. As being a former high school teacher, we had drills for this. This school and this church and school had reinforced their safety, and yet somebody was able to shoot through a window, get through a window, and kill innocent people. I just am beside myself here, and watching this unfold, watching the numbers come in this morning, watching people from our local news breaking down and crying because of the senseless killings, and they're crying because they know people in the community, and this is a community that's kind of by Richfield, still in Minneapolis. It's not in the deep heart of Minneapolis, but it is in Minneapolis, and next thing we're going to have here is Trump bringing in the military and bringing in the National Guard because we're unsafe here in Minnesota, and we're a blue state, so it's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. Allison just asked a question here that has a little bit, not too much to do with what I'm talking about, but I'm going to try and answer that. She wanted to know, do we know if the Cedar has a special meeting when it comes to the jingle dress at the Fine Arts building? And Cedar for Ho-Chunk especially, and we saw a t-shirt out there, not to get all commercial on everybody, but at the state fair, and we saw a t-shirt with the 4 medicines, and Cedar is one of the medicines. So that's one of our medicines, along with sage, sweetgrass, and tobacco. So I hope that answers your question about that. Again, just really, really sad today. What can we do? What can we do? We can talk to our young ones and hold our young ones and hope that they aren't affected in either way. I feel sick to my stomach today. really, really do. And I don't know. We're going to have a discussion here later on with some of our guests that we've had on, Dr. Stately, Arvina Martin, and talk about this. What is the solution? Why is this so normalized now? I'm just, heartbroken. And this is in our backyard, and we need to do something. This 23-year-old person who died a self-inflicted gunshot at the scene. And I guess at one time, the mother worked at the school and church. So what is the answer? What is the answer? It's so heartbreaking. Just so heartbreaking. To wake up here this morning and to have this on our news and having our grandchildren here, knowing that there's countries that don't deal with this. There's countries that don't have these kind of guns, a 48-hour wait, things like that we've been trying to get past over the years. Again, I'm sorry that, I'm coming off pretty unprofessional today, and I don't know, I just feel super sad about what happened here and what's been happening. Sandy Brook was 10 years ago, and we're still dealing with this. We're still dealing with this. I just don't know what to say. We're devastated here at Native Roots Radio, and we are just really sad for the future of our children, and we need to do something about this, and we need to get proactive. And again, what Mayor Fry said, they were praying, so our thoughts and prayers, they were praying, what can we do, But hey, this is Native Roots Radio, and thank you so much, everybody that's listening and feeling it. We're going to take a quick break and get myself together here. This is Native Roots Radio, and we'll be right back.
On view at Minneapolis Institute of Art, artist Mary Sully was a visionary ahead of her time. Born on Standing Rock Reservation, she worked in near obscurity between the 1920s and 1940s, creating intricate, vividly colored drawings that blend Dakota heritage with modern life. Now on display at the Minneapolis Institute of Art, experience the first solo exhibition featuring Mary Sully's work, only at MIA until September 21st, and always free to visit. Learn more at artsmia.org.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Four Sisters Farmers Market is more than a place to shop for delicious organic food. It's a celebration of Indigenous culture, food sovereignty, and community. Now in its 11th season, the market offers healthy, affordable, culturally appropriate local foods every Thursday from 11 to 3. Located on the American Indian Cultural Corridor off Franklin Avenue, Four Sisters Farmers Market is a project of NACD. Every Thursday now through October, discover more about Four Sisters Farmers Market by visiting nacd.org. Hey, it's Robert Pilot from Native Roots Radio. Native culture is alive and thriving at the Minnesota State Fair. The Native Roots Trading Post is back at the West End Market, where you can support Indigenous artists and makers. And don't miss the Native Pride dancers performing on the Summit stage at the Bazaar August 31st and September 1st. From music and art to food and storytelling, Native culture is everywhere at the State Fair. Tickets are just $17 through August 20th at mnstatefair.org. Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, welcome back, everyone. This is Robert Pilot, and I want to give a shout out to Savage Truth that's just posted here. Prayers up for the community and our country. I think you hit it on the spot when you said mental health and looking at our politicians so we can have funds where it's needed. What else can we do? And I appreciate you listening, Savage. I appreciate you giving input. Anybody else feel that way? You know, for Natives, you know, we need to, you know, pass on our culture. You know, for our kids, we need to teach Native language and songs and ceremonies. We need to have our kids involved in powwows and seasonal ceremonies and cultural events. And we need helping them to feel prideful of being Native in a society that really often erases or stereotypes Native people. So that's what we try to do, at least in our culture. And I think, you know, mental illness is a thing that really is out there. And then the easy way to get guns. It's just, I don't know. It's just really hard to, I just feel so bad. And, you know, we need to support education. You know, we need to encourage our children to do well while they're in school. And we as Natives also need to be teaching them to question narratives that leave out Native history. And that's what we try to do. Everybody at one time was, you know, whether it was 1,000 years ago or 500 years ago, everybody, whether you were Italian or Irish, English, we're part of a tribe. We're a community where they touched the ground with their feet, you know, and their bare feet, and they looked up to, you know, Father Sky and Mother Earth. We all have been there. We've all been colonized, and I'm sad that this was happened at a Catholic school, and I'm really sad that it happened to children. And being a former teacher, again, I said this earlier, we normalized these, you know, it was like when I was a kid, we normalized duck and cover because I guess we wanted to be under our desks when the nuclear bomb hit. I'm not sure if that would have helped, but we had drills 3 times a year where we closed the doors, locked the doors, turned the lights off. Those drills in themselves are kind of traumatic when you think about that. I just, again, I really am just really sad here about what's going on. And I think I sent Arvina the wrong link here to come on. I'm going to try and send her that again. But I just really am sad for this country. I'm just, prayers up to everybody out there. Yeah, it's a very sad day today. You know, and if you haven't heard, and what's happened, and there was a shooting at a Catholic church today, and it was right in the beginning of the day where they have their prayer and start their way out in a good way. And, I'm just totally sad. And I want to bring Dr. Stately on here to talk me down a little bit. But this is a traumatic time here in Minnesota. And thank you, Dr. Stately, Native American Community Clinic here, CEO. And I've just been talking about how sad I am about today and what the community here in Minneapolis and Minnesota are going through. And, everywhere from the people that work at the hospitals by a second day of mass shootings here in Minnesota to the family with hurt ones and ones that have passed on. Thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate the invitation to be here today. It is, it was a shocking bit of news this morning to hear that happening. It isn't actually too far away from the clinic where we operate from, and I think I was just talking with some of my staff about this earlier and a couple other people about how we've had our share of violence in the community within the last 3, 4, 5 months. It's just been kind of a heavy amount of gun violence. It's just sad. It's it was shocking to me to I was in the middle of a meeting and I could hear I was kind of paying attention because it was one of those meetings where you're in multiple. There's 20 people in the meeting. Some in the meeting listening to the conversation, but then I also have the radio on because I listen to NPR every single morning when I wake up and kind of start my day, and I can hear the news report, the breaking news reports that were coming through at NPR this morning, and I was just like, oh my god. And this just shocking. I think the heartbreaking and shocking thing is, of course, all of it is heartbreaking and shocking, but it's just the fact that 2 children were killed, and several more were injured, seriously injured. I think I haven't even looked recently to see if anybody else has passed away, but multiple gunshots or multiple gunshot victims that happened in a school that was attached to a church, and just the scale of it is just heartbreaking and maddening, infuriating. It's like, what is going on in our society where that's still something that we're struggling with.
How has this become so normalized? Sandy Brook was 10 years ago. Columbine, I don't even know. Is that 25 years ago or 20 years ago? My goodness.
Yeah, about 2 decades ago, a little over 2 decades ago, I think. I remember when Sandy Hook happened, my sons were small. I think they were probably maybe 7 years old, 8 years old, perhaps 7 or 8 years old, something like that. And I remember I rushed to school. I got my car and I drove to my school, my children's school, just because I was so disturbed by that experience. I went and I got them, and when I went to make sure that they were okay, because I just also in the last, I feel in the last decade or so, what we've been seeing is just people mirroring, and we see these things happen in clusters. One thing happens and another thing happens. It's in mental health work we talk about suicides and homicides and those kinds of things happening in clusters. It emboldens or encourages people to do similar things, similar behaviors. And I just remember when that happened as a parent, just feeling I just felt my heart drop and my stomach I felt got in my car and I drove over to my kids to school and I took them out of school and I just held them. 'Cause I just like, you know, it's like such a hard thing to experience. I can't. My heart hurts for those parents of the children in that school, whether they were, you know, specifically, particularly for the ones that lost their lives, but also like just, you know, I think that shifts and changes your life as a parent of young children to have them be, you know, impacted by that level of violence and disruption in their lives. You know, the loss of innocence and the and the, you know, the harsh realities of the world we live in. You know, we try our best as parents to protect our kids from that and to protect them from those things that will be harmful, whether they're direct harm or indirect harm. Like to witness those things and then ask themselves, like, you know, is it going to be safe for me to go to school tomorrow? Is it going to be safe for me to leave my home? Is it going to be safe for me to be out and about in my community? Right? Like how do you, the scale and the weight of that as a parent is just like, you know, it's
A few of the parents,
immeasurable actually.
Dr. Staley, a few of the parents have that were interviewed, and this is the very, very beginning of the school year for our parochial schools, and then public schools start next week. But they've been saying that they want to homeschool their kids. I mean, like, I don't blame them. This is dangerous, and we don't protect our young ones. This is, and I don't know if you heard in the report, Dr. Stately, but they had reinforced it for safety this year, their church and their school, and still somebody shot through the windows and started shooting with 3 different guns.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a way to stop that.
You know, I'm a behavioral health scientist and researcher and provider, a trained clinician, and
Yeah.
you know, it befuddles me to come up with something simple to say about this that doesn't feel, you know, contrived or, you know, or political in any way. But it's like you know, it's like if we are unable as a society of, you know, reasonable human beings, like, you know, and I'm not saying anything about political affiliation here. I'm talking about people who just have, like, you know, good hearts and common sense. If we can't see that the issue here is the amount of access that people have to, like, you know, assault weapons and those kinds of things, it's just like really problematic. It's problematic that we can't see that with clarity for how real that is, and not think that something has to change so that any people, but, you know, it's particularly disturbing that young people are losing their lives. I was listening to this. I was listening to a podcast about, I don't know, so maybe about 4 months ago, 5 months ago, on that station we don't talk about, we don't name. And, you know, and I was listening to, I think it was probably Megan Chakravarty's On Point podcast and or news radio hour about the amount of research that we do have that demonstrates, like, that we could actually change and we could actually intervene in gun violence in the United States if the issue isn't about not knowing enough. The issue isn't about not having, you know, the ideas and the strategies and the things that would work. The issue really does come down to, is there the will of the people that make decisions and make the laws? Is there enough will there to do that?
Absolutely. Hey, we're here with Dr. Stately. We're going to take a quick break. Thank you for listening to us. This is Native Roots Radio. Hey, it's Robert Pilot from Native Roots Radio. Native culture is alive and thriving at the Minnesota State Fair. The Native Roots Trading Post is back at the West End Market where you can support Indigenous artists and makers. And don't miss the Native Pride dancers performing on the Summit stage at the Bazaar August 31st and September 1st. From music and art to food and storytelling, Native culture is everywhere at the State Fair. Tickets are just $17 through August 20th at mnstatefair.org. Four Sisters Farmers Market is more than a place to shop for delicious organic food. It's a celebration of Indigenous culture, food sovereignty, and community. Now in its 11th season, the market offers healthy, affordable, culturally appropriate local foods every Thursday from 11 to 3. Located on the American Indian Cultural Corridor off Franklin Avenue, Four Sisters Farmers Market is a project of NAGD. Every Thursday now through October, discover more about Four Sisters Farmers Market by visiting nagd.org.
Hey, Francois, how are you enjoying the state fair? Oh, you really do love those macarons from Nicolette's, don't you?
Oh, ils sont merveilleux.
I've heard there's great new flavors, cotton candy, root beer float, sweet corn, and mini donut.
Très, très bon goût.
Oh, plus they have 12 other gluten-free flavors. It's so great you support a local, small, woman-owned business.
Bien sûr, avec plaisir.
Visit Nicolette's in the West End Market between Lulu's and the Blue Barn. See you at that great Minnesota get-together.
When was the last time you had your roof inspected for extreme weather and hail damage? This is Chad, owner of AM 950, to talk about the exterior construction company I trust, Snap Construction. If you've noticed new roofing projects in your neighborhood, your home was likely hit by hail last summer and experienced damage. Snap Construction is helping homeowners like you, and they're the roofing specialists I trust. They are the most well-reviewed contractor in the Twin Cities and have a ton of positive customer reviews from homeowners just like you. Even better, Snap Construction's installations are backed by a lifetime warranty, so you know you're dealing with a qualified roofing expert. You want to work with a company that will be here for a long time after the work is done. Snap Construction has handled thousands of claims and will help you through the process. Do yourself a favor and get a free roofing inspection so you have the facts and peace of mind you deserve. Call Snap Construction today at 612-333-SNAP. That's 612-333-SNAP. Or visit snapconstruction.com.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. We have families waiting for a car. You know, over 85% of unemployed are successful in finding and keeping a job if they have dependable transportation. A car plus a job equals a life changed. 612-919-5526. We have families waiting for a car. 919-5526. Or autotech.org.
Overwhelmed trying to make sense of Medicare? As a licensed advisor, I can help you determine your healthcare needs and evaluate your options. I'm Harvey Pearl of Pearl & Company, and I want you to have the peace of mind knowing you have the best coverage available. You deserve an advocate you can trust and coverage you can rely on. And there's no fee, ever. Annual enrollment is October 15th through December 7th. Find me at pearlsofwisdom.com. That's PERLES of wisdom.com. So we can strategize together.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies tonight with a low around 60, Thursday sunny with a high near 76, and Friday sunny with a high around 75. With a 4.9 rating on Google and over 21,000 reviews, Zero Res is Minnesota's ultimate carpet cleaner. Right now, they have their Labor Day sale where you can get 3 rooms Zero Resified for $119 plus $75 off your air duct cleaning. Schedule your appointment at ZeroResMinnesota.com or call 952-ZeroRes.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. I have Arvina Martin on here, CEO of Emerge Wisconsin, to talk about what's happened and what's happening, and is this a political issue, and is this just a moral issue? And I know the Second Amendment was started when there was, muskets, so Dr. Staley, I know you're on a tight schedule. I can bring Arvina on anytime. She's in the bullpen too. So if you want to just give us a last little, you're really hitting on something at the end of that segment, and I appreciate you coming on. And we have Arvina Martin on too.
Sure. I mean, I want to give her space too. I think the only thing I would say is like, what I was saying earlier was like, we have the evidence and the research and the knowledge and the understanding of having of being able to create a response to tragedies like these, and also how to prevent them. Like we've had some of this information for a while. There's been a lot of quite remarkable research that's been done in gun violence and how to mitigate gun violence at the mass scale that's happening. And so it's not that we don't understand and we don't have knowledge and some clear pathway to that. I think it really is about the collective political will on all sides of the aisle, right? To be able to respond to this. There's like, we're one of the only sort of like, quote unquote, wealthiest, most advanced nations in the world that have the scale of this kind of issue, right? And it's not to say that other countries don't have those challenges. They don't have it on the scale and the level that America does, that the United States does. And a lot of it has to do with just the lack of political will to kind of just solve the problem. And I think that the challenge for me is always like, I have a really strong feeling about this because I'm a parent of young children, right? And who only recently turned 18. And, just over the last 10, 12 years or 14 years of their lives, I was always concerned about like, what would happen if they, were in a situation like that. I remember them being like 10 years old and having to do right after Sandy Hook, having to do, or 8 years old, having to do practice runs for like how do you stay safe, those things. It's like this, they're 8 years old, they should not be doing this. I think the thing that is challenging is like, you asked if it was a moral issue or a political issue. I don't know how you actually separate those two things, right? They are linked, in my opinion. They're connected to each other. And anybody who values human life and anybody that values the psychological, emotional, and spiritual well-being of children, young people, like the ones that are harmed in families, like how you would not think that that's a higher priority than protecting, gun rights. The amendment you talk about was created when we had muskets that couldn't do the level of damage that happens now. Like we are advanced human beings, we are advanced in technology, we're advanced in so many other things, but we're relying on a law that was created like in the dark ages, so to speak, right? We can handle this differently and do different things. We can modernize our ways of imagining these things, and we have to, because hurt people hurt other people, right? And we continue to do that, and we have ways of managing that differently. And I just think it takes courageous, outspoken people to do that, and unfortunately we don't have a lot of those people in Congress right now.
Yeah, definitely.
It's very sad.
Hey, Dr. Staley, I want to introduce you to Arvina Martin, and she's executive director of Emerge Wisconsin, and she's also we call city council here in Minnesota. In Wisconsin, they call it the Green Bay Pack. No, they call
the best football team ever of all time.
Okay. And thank goodness we're on like 30 stations in Wisconsin, so Arvina and I can't have an argument about that. I just have to say, okay. But yeah, she's a former first Native American city council member in Madison, Wisconsin, and we have her on weekly like we do you, and I'm really glad that you both could come on. And if you want to stay on and chime in, Arvina has a lot of great things to say. And I know you were just in Minnesota, Arvina.
I was, and you'll have to forgive me. I am not super up on what happened. I was in Minneapolis for the DNC meeting. And I was running late because I had a work call that I had to take care of before I went in. And everything was done. I was really confused. And a colleague told me that about what happened, and that they shut down the rest of our session, that we ended early, out of respect for everybody who's being affected by this. And school shooting, I am also a parent. My daughter is in high school, and it always hits differently. And I was not able to listen to any news or anything because I had to focus on driving, and just got home like at the commercial break. But it's what the first shooting, I have it on the tip of my tongue, in Colorado. Columbine, yes. The Columbine shooting happened when I was a freshman in college. So I never had to deal with any of those fears growing up or going to school. And I remember it was like the last day before the holidays of my daughter's preschool. And that was the day that Sandy Hook happened. And we were supposed to go in, and they were going to sing songs and like decorate cookies and everything with us. And I was absolutely shattered inside. And I mean, I'll never forget that. And, every subsequent school shooting, you just get that pit in your stomach. And, I'm trying not to cry right now, because this can't happen anymore. We can't let this happen anymore. Our Congress people are at home right now on their breaks. They should be doing, a lot of them aren't doing town halls or anything right now because of other news and happenings, but you can still contact those people that represent you at whatever level, and ask them to have the fortitude to stand up and do this, and it needs to be, unfortunately, it needs to be a bipartisan effort.
Yeah.
And get anything into get anything that's going to actually work into place. And, as Dr. Staley had mentioned about all of these studies that tell us, repeated studies that tell us that this is dangerous and it can be stopped. It can be, handled in a way that's different from how we're handling it now. And one of the first, after the immediate fears for like physical safety for everybody involved and everybody everybody, my next thought was, and thinking about this, I bet you if the money that funds any of these gun violence protection or prevention programs still get federal money, they're not going to be getting it anymore. I'm sure that these studies are going to be, dismissed or somehow taken. It's just terrible.
Hey, we want to take a quick break, and I appreciate it. Dr. Staley, can you hang on and chime in? Or I know you got a tight schedule, but this is something really close to your guys' heart and my heart, and this is Native Roots Radio, and we'll be right back with Arvina Martin and Dr. Staley. This is Native Roots Radio.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis Air dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis Air on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
On view at Minneapolis Institute of Art, artist Mary Sully was a visionary ahead of her time. Born on Standing Rock Reservation, she worked in near obscurity between the 1920s and 1940s, creating intricate, vividly colored drawings that blend Dakota heritage with modern life. Now on display at the Minneapolis Institute of Art, experience the first solo exhibition featuring Mary Sully's work, only at MIA until September 21st, and always free to visit. Learn more at artsmia.org.
Hey, it's Robert Pilot from Native Roots Radio. The Minnesota State Fair is packed with 12 days of fun with food, rides, and much, much more. And right in the middle of it all, you'll find Indigenous voices making an impact. Seat the common table for lessons in Indigenous food justice. Visit with Native authors and watch drum groups. Plus, stop by the Native Roots Trading Post back at the West End Market. That's the Minnesota State Fair through September 1st. Get your State Fair tickets now at mnstatefair.org. Four Sisters Farmers Market is more than a place to shop for delicious organic food. It's a celebration of Indigenous culture, food sovereignty, and community. Now in its 11th season, the market offers healthy, affordable, culturally appropriate local foods every Thursday from 11 to 3. Located on the American Indian Cultural Corridor off Franklin Avenue, Four Sisters Farmers Market is a project of NAGD. Every Thursday now through October, discover more about Four Sisters Farmers Market by visiting nagd.org.
Hi, this is Governor Walz. Thank you for listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. This is Native Roots Radio on a super somber day, and I want to we're here with Arvina Martin of CEO or Executive Director of Merge Wisconsin, and Dr. Stately, CEO of Native American Community Clinic here in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis. And Dr. Stately, do you mind commenting on what Arvina said? That was this has become or is a very heavy show, and appreciate everybody's honesty here.
Yeah, I mean, I think I also saw a couple of comments on the comments page that, you know, I think one of the things that's important to recognize is like, so there's always this discussion, I think, at the federal level in Congress and sometimes in state legislative sessions as well about like this idea of like, well, we need to put more money behind mental health because if we, you know, the people who are doing shootings are mentally ill. Right? And if we just put more money into mental health, that would solve the problem. And I think part of it is that, you know, I mean, I happen to think that like you have, as human beings, we could acknowledge that it's not a healthy, normal sort of like thing to have the motivation to shoot another human being, right? I could be a little bit faulty in my thinking here, but I happen to sort of embrace Indigenous values and ideas. And one of the things that's one of our most basic things as human beings is, you know, if we want to be good relatives to each other, which is what we were sent to be here as, you know, from Creator sent us to come here and be good relatives to each other, is to find another way to work out our differences and find another way to relate to one another, where we value life and we value each other's as relatives. So if we want to practice from that perspective, we don't shoot each other and kill each other. But I think the thing that I would say is that, you know, mental health probably has a role to play in some of this. Like people get angry, they don't have the skill set, or they have the ability to manage their frustration tolerance and those kinds of things. So there's a role to play in it, but the larger part of the issue here really is the outsized availability of access to guns of mass destruction and guns with you know, just the amount of guns that people have, right? I think I can't remember where I was just trying to look while we were on break, of like looking up studies and stuff. I was trying to find the metrics around sort of like how many guns there are that are owned in America, and there's more guns than there are people.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, so there's enough there's enough guns in this country for every single person to have, you know, 2 or 3 of them. And
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
and I think about all the people that I know that and I know a lot of people, and I think of like all of the people that I know, you know, a handful of them own guns. The majority of them don't, right? And so I think part of it becomes this conversation around like, you know, do we really need to own this many guns? Like in the right to bear arms, right, was a thing that was created in a society in which there were not all these other structures that were in place to keep us safe. Right? And so this idea, like, we have to be able, you know, this idea that we have as a society for a lot of people in our society, that I have to have a gun or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 to feel safe, is, I think, in some way, shape, and form, can be the foundation of that, can be emergent from like an unhealthy mental health state. Like if I feel that unsafe, there might be some false ideas that I have or theories I have about my area, about my community, about the people living in my community, and those relationships I have with people. You know, but they're not untethered. They're tethered together.
Yeah.
But the reality is that, you know, in a society where we have more guns than people, that's a problem. That's a real problem.
Arvina, you want to comment?
You know, I'm sorry. I'm so just overwhelmed with emotions that it's surprisingly hard to articulate anything clearly at the moment, which is not great radio, unfortunately. But you know, I think for a problem this big, I mean, you asked earlier, is this a moral or a political issue? And it's both and all kind of, you know, it's economic. It's, you know, there's so many layers to this that we can't just even take you know, well, we'll fix one thing and that'll help, and that'll fix it all. You know, we've got to improve mental health services to everybody. I firmly believe that everybody should be in therapy, just because, and especially now when things are so scary and we have events happening like this way too often. Being able to talk to somebody is so helpful, and they're able to, you know, reflect what you're telling them back to you in a way that it's so much easier to process everything, and feel like you have some sort of control over those emotions. So, you know, we need to expand mental health access to basically everybody. We also need to figure out ways how to, you know, reduce access of firearms to folks that should not be having firearms, and you know, and making I don't know, making it somehow easier to store guns safely. I mean, it's got to come that, maybe not so much that one, but like there's got to be, we've got to look at this from every possible side, and we have so much of the evidence and the reports there. And we need to look at it again and make decisions. And start. I mean, even if it's just chipping away, we've got to make some progress.
Yeah. We got a minute left, and I'd love, Dr. Stately, if you just want to close out, and then I'll hand it over to you, Arvina.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think those are all really great comments and ideas. I think one of the things I would encourage all of your listeners to think about is if this is an issue that means something to you, I can't imagine it doesn't mean something to every single person that's listening. You either have children or you were a child at one point in time, or you might have nieces and nephews, right? So it kind of is relevant to everybody. Like go online and look for, just ask the question on ChatGPT and Google, and it'll pull up a lot of, how do we stop gun violence? And sandyhook.org, I think sandyhook.org is a website that has a list of all kinds of recommendations that we can take as individuals and as groups and as societies to sort of address this issue. Some really great recommendations. I think it's important, like in this situation you're feeling, Arvina, I'm feeling the same way. Sometimes I just feel like so disempowered, right? It's like, oh my God, this feels so huge and so big. How do we address it? But there's good evidence out there that gives us some ideas on how to do this. And if it means something to you, start reading up and boning up on those recommendations, and talk to your legislators and talk to the people in your communities and other people that feel the same way you do and want to do something. I think that's really where it starts. And just don't give up. Don't give up ever.
I appreciate you both coming on such a somber day and on the days that you normally aren't on the show. And thank you so much. And we'll be talking really soon. This has been Native Roots Radio. I'm Awake, and we've been with Dr. Stately and Arvina Martin. We'll see you tomorrow.
On view at Minneapolis Institute of Art, artist Mary Sully